Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of Cabinet on Thursday, the 17th of September via Teams. I'll take apologies for absence first, please.
There are no apologies for absence.
I understand Councillor Pugh is delayed in another meeting and will join us as soon as she can. So we'll welcome Councillor Pugh once she arrives. I'll go to disclosures of personal or prejudicial interests. Are there any disclosures for anybody on any items on the agenda today? I can't see any indications from anybody. Okay. We'll move then to the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 1 to 4. Anybody wish to raise any issues of accuracy on any of the minutes? I haven't been notified, but if there are, I'll take them now. Everybody happy to agree the minutes?
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. On to announcements of Leader of the Council. All I was going to say at the start of the meeting is obviously members will be aware of the recent local lockdowns that have occurred in Caerphilly and in RCT, as well as the rise in infections which we've seen in Merthyr, Newport and elsewhere. Clearly, we need to ensure that people remain vigilant. What the local lockdowns are demonstrating is the virus has not gone away. We have the restart of schools across Wales. We have students returning to learning. We still have, people travelling around the UK. So all of that is inevitably going to put pressures in terms of the potential for a rise in infection rate. So again, we would repeat the messages that we put out previously, that people need to follow the rules, remain socially distanced, wear a mask in the appropriate settings, when they're dropping their children off at schools to remember social distancing in those settings as well, and to make sure that they do all they can to limit the potential for a further lockdown, and obviously to make sure that if that does come, or if further restrictions do come, that they're in place for a shorter period of time as possible. That is what we can all do together. So I just wanted to put that message out there again this morning to enable us to do what we can. It is very good at the moment that Swansea still has a relatively low infection rate, but as we've seen elsewhere, that can change very, very quickly. So with that, I'll go to public question time. And Mr. Evans, have we received any questions?
No questions submitted.
Okay, thank you. We'll go then to councillor question time. Is there any councillors submitted questions today?
None submitted and nobody present.
Okay, thank you. We'll move then to item 7, which is the implication and preparation for the new curriculum in Swansea schools. Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Chair. I believe Councillor Robert Smith, who chaired this committee, will be introducing this report. Is he here?
I think Councillor Smith is with us. Did you want to say anything before I call Councillor Smith in?
No, if I could comment afterwards, please.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, Councillor Smith, welcome. And would you like to lead on this item?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Leader. Background to this is the work that the committee did the last 10 months. Began well before lockdown, when we met various stakeholders with responsibility for the new curriculum in Swansea, and met with the Regional School Support Service, representatives of Estin and so on. And can I thank all members of the committee for their input into the discussions and for the support we've had from the officers as well. The recommendations are as outlined in the report. It's recognising that Swansea has already taken in terms of responding to the new curriculum, responding to the opportunities that it presents, but also recognising that although there is a significant amount of good practice in Swansea, we need to strengthen the systems to share good practice and ensure consistency across the whole of the city and county. That's the reasoning behind the recommendations around establishing the professional learning community, establishing stronger methods of sharing information between our schools, recognising that there's a need to strengthen, continue to strengthen school leadership, both at senior leadership level, but also that crucial middle leadership within schools, and recognising that whatever regional support structures may exist, there are certain steps that we as an authority need to take, irrespective of regional structures. And again, that's reflected in the report. There's also issues there around the curriculum that each learner should access, with a strong recommendation that work readiness, vocational learning should be part of the experience of all learners, and that links with previous work that the PDC did around the establishment of the Swansea Skills Partnership. So I think with those words of introduction, I think we could want to open it up for discussion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Smith before I call Councillor Rayner in? No? Okay, Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Leader. I think this is a very important piece of work for us. And I would like to sort of explain where I see it lying in terms of delivering the improvements we have to make in education in Swansea. Our corporate plan sets out our 6 priorities, and they are all very closely interrelated. Education is required to improve the education and skills so that every child and young person in Swansea gains the skills and qualifications they need to succeed in life. I have to say, I have found the Policy Development Committee system extremely useful in moving forward from the we want to this is how we're going to do it. The Policy Development Committee, which has members from across the political spectrum represented on Swansea Council, has been an excellent vehicle for developing the mechanisms for developing the overarching strategic approach that Swansea Council has. This is the 3rd report under the chairmanship of Councillor Robert Smith. Previous ones you have already approved, looked at how we can improve the underachieving groups, and this has led to a lot of training in-house, bringing in professionals and experienced people from across the country, bringing in people from the London boroughs who were heralded as the real success story, which gives our teachers a chance to actually say, right, we've read the report, now tell us what was difficult that we can build on and learn from. We had another paper from the Policy Development Committee on skills and careers, which saw the setting up of the Swansea Skills Partnership with our universities, schools and colleges and employers and Careers Wales. And that has produced some outstanding results in actually moving skills and careers knowledge back into schools, including into the primary sector. And before that, before the Policy Development Committees were formalised, we also had a very useful report under the chairmanship of Councillor Des Thomas on NEET's reduction strategy, especially looking at the fall off in interest from young people when secondary schools more or less shut down for normal lessons in May and until colleges reopened September, October time. And that saw the introduction of life skills coaches in schools using the Cunniff funding from the European organisation, and also the colleges setting up, shall we say, try it before you sign up courses during the summer months, so people could actually move from a couple of days trying out what it is to be in this particular skilled area and moving on before making the mistake of signing up for a long course and then deciding it wasn't quite for them. And that has also led on to the introduction of what is called the 14 to 16 apprenticeships, which is for those pupils who don't do well in a formal school setting, and so work 4 days a week with Gower College on skills and technical problems, and then return back to school for 1 day a week for additional literacy work and numeracy work to support those future occupations. So I think this has been, the Policy development committees have been an excellent vehicle for bringing forward how we can deliver our priorities. I would recommend everybody takes full advantage of them. I've been very grateful for the fact that both Robert and Des find time to attend the fortnightly business meetings, so they have full access to senior leaders, and they also hear from middle leaders and developing member of staff ideas that they're working on. So when they start working on development policy projects, they have a full understanding of funding, both of the department, schools funding, planning policy for places, training needs, relationships with schools, exclusions. So I am confident that they are working and leading these committees from a strength position based on sound knowledge. I fully support the recommendations, and I think all 9, I hope you will readily accept. They make specific points on internal management, specific relationships to be continued and developed between the department and schools, and also strengthening and recognising the potential for cluster work across Swansea on a school-to-school basis to ensure we have consistency across Swansea. The recommendations also emphasise the importance of collaboration with regional partners and the Welsh Government. So I really have to say thank you very much to Councillor Smith and all the members of the committee, and indeed to Gareth Borsden from Democratic Services, who has year in, year out supported the committee, provided all the papers, done the background work, booked all the speakers, informed me when certain persons who we would like to speak to were a little reluctant to turn up, so that we could explain this was policy development, not scrutiny. We want to hear your opinions. So I find the recommendations excellent. I hope you will approve them. And if you do, I would like to use those recommendations as part of our submission to the extended period of scrutiny from the National Assembly Children and Young People's Committee, who have extended the period of consultation on introducing the new curriculum because of the COVID restrictions. I think in Swansea, it's been quite clear that we have continued working throughout COVID. We had a strong basis going into it, and I think we're in a strong position to move forward. I think our schools have done really well here. The report does highlight some of the key issues that have yet to be addressed nationally on introducing it, but I think we're in a strong position, and certainly I think it establishes quite clearly that we have developed very well the processes in the first 2 parts of introducing the strategy, and that we are ready to move on. So thank you very much to Councillor Smith, and thank you, Leader, and to Council for giving us a mechanism to actually enable us to deliver strategy. Don't want to sit in a room saying, how can we do this when we can draw on a vast range of expertise within the authority? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Councillor Smith, you want to come back in?
Just to echo what Jen said about the current practice within Swansea, I think we can all be proud of the level of the excellence that we have in our schools. We've got some very good practice that we've identified, speaking to the schools, speaking to the head teachers, speaking to some of the learners as well in previous meetings. And I think, you know, that's something that we can build on and move forward as we study the new curriculum. There are huge strengths in Swansea, and we need to celebrate and be proud of what we have here.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to add my thanks to those of Councillor Rayner for the work that you and the committee have done. And again, I think, as Councillor Rayner said, it was a brave decision for us as an administration to open up policy development and delivery to the whole council. But that is what grown-up politics is about. It's about making sure that the policy development is done in a public forum with the input of all members, all elected members. And, you know, I'm not aware of this happening anywhere else in Wales. And I think it is a model that can be rolled out, because cabinet government does disenfranchise members unless you have mechanisms like PDCs where members can truly get involved in the nitty-gritty of policy development delivery. So yes, very good third report from your committee, Councillor Smith, so thank you very much. Councillor Rayner, did you want to formally move the report? I know you said about using the recommendations. I fully support that, but do you want to formally move it?
I would formally move it to Cabinet and seek your permission, if you're willing to accept all the recommendations, for permission to use it in our submission to the National Assembly.
Absolutely. Could I get a seconder for that, please?
Please, a second.
Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Evans, we go to roll call.
Okay, please say if you're for, against or abstaining. Councillor Rob Stewart.
For.
Councillor Robert Francis Davis.
For.
Councillor David Hopkins.
For.
Councillor Andrea Lewis.
For.
Councillor Clive Lloyd.
For.
Councillor Sam Pritchard.
For.
Councillor Alison Pugh.
For.
Oh, you're in. Councillor Jen Rayner.
For.
Councillor Andrew Stevens.
For.
Councillor Mark Thomas.
For.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you very much. That's carried, and we will forward those recommendations now on to the Welsh Government Scrutiny Committee, as Councillor Rayner indicated. Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. We'll move now then to the next item, which is the report of the Cabinet Member for Business Improvement on the Annual Performance Monitoring Report. Okay, so I'll go to Cabinet Member. Councillor Stevens.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'm pleased to be bringing this Cabinet report here today. Over the last few years, there's been a background of hugely reducing budgets. Over £80 million has been taken out of the Council's revenue support grant, and against that background, this report demonstrates a robust and consistent performance. If you look at para 3.2 of the report, you'll see that 55% met their targets, with over 60% improving on comparisons of the previous year. Measuring against the Welsh Government's public accountability measures, the results show that 67% hit their targets and 50% exceeded them. So in the context of where we've been and now where we are, I think this is a strong performance. So I'll just touch on a few areas, and I'm sure our Cabinet colleagues will want to elaborate further. Firstly, we have a new corporate objective, and this is the first year that we've reported on managing and maintaining Swansea's natural resources and biodiversity. This is an area I feel that we do not get enough credit for. We're one of the few councils to put this in our corporate plan, and it's one of our key objectives. We've been working to put measures in place so the public will be able to see what we're doing in terms of our contribution to a greener city. And as you'll see from the report, there's a vast amount that's been done in a short period, from tree planting to progress on our climate charter, to the biggest public sector operated electrical vehicle fleet in Wales. I think it's safe to say that we're delivering on our climate emergency declaration. For safeguarding, our plan sets out our commitment to ensuring that residents live their lives free from harm and exploitation. Safeguarding remains a top priority, and we continue to expect safeguarding to be everyone's business. And I'm proud to say that 100% of elected members have undertaken safeguarding training. Education continues to be consistent, and as we prioritise education in Swansea, this continues to be a well-performing area for the local authority in comparison to other councils throughout Wales. An excellent story for us is transforming our economy and infrastructure. That is clearly visible in the city centre as we see the cranes and work taking place around the city. Swansea Central Phase 1 has made significant progress with Phase 2 design work already underway. And we've been called the City of Artist Impressions, but now you can visibly see our skyline changing. And it's great to see all these plans finally come into fruition. There's also the continued investment in the Welsh Housing Quality Standards Programme, delivering major repairs to our council homes. Almost £48 million spent to ensure our homes are efficient, secure and meet the needs of residents. And during this year, we installed thousands of new kitchens and bathrooms. There are many other exciting schemes, such as the More Homes programme, which focuses on providing new build council housing. These will see innovative features such as solar panels, battery-powered energy to further complement the work we're doing on climate emergency and our biodiversity priority. In terms of tackling poverty, given the difficult circumstances post-rollout of universal credit, we maintain a real consistent performance in this area, with a focus on welfare rights and helping people with the downsides of universal credit, of which there are many. I think that there's been real success in terms of where we've put that focus. The Poverty Truth Commission, which we agreed as a council that we would launch and focus on, along with our poverty reduction policies, making further inroads into lifting people out of poverty, taking people into employment and making sure they have good levels of pay. For transformation and future council, good progress was achieved across our wellbeing objectives. Our Sustainable Swansea underwent its annual review, and in light of COVID-19, we're looking at a new forward-looking sustainable transformation programme. This is something that's continuously evolving. We always search for the most efficient ways of working and always look where we can deliver the best services. Our strategy of continuous improvement, focusing on those new models, make sure that this council continues to be one of the best performing councils in Wales and delivers for the residents of Swansea. I want to put on record praise for our IT team. Faced with the massive task of getting all staff and members working from home at record pace due to events at the end of the year, our digital and cloud-first approach leading up to COVID vastly improved our resilience. More importantly, it meant that residents could continue to access services online or via virtual call centres. But finally, I would like to pay tribute to our entire workforce, the leadership, the management, shown the day-to-day tenacity of all of our staff. They've all helped to produce a report of this standing in very challenging circumstances, even more so considering the end of year saw us face an unprecedented event. Our workforce adapted and have been outstanding throughout. Happy to remove the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stevens. And as you indicated, a raft of really good developments and delivery still occurring across the council, despite the challenging times. I know a number of cabinet members have got their hands up to come in, so I'll go around. So start with Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you to Councillor Stevens for bringing this report here. One thing that struck me on reading this report, it does concentrate the mind when you see everything in one place, in one report, marking the achievements of the year 19 to 2020. And I'm particularly proud. I know Councillor Stevens mentioned the major investment that we have decided to make in our Welsh Housing Quality Standard, but also and not equally important is the new build projects and also the retrofit projects, which are encouraging energy efficiency and making those properties actually the cost of energy neutral over an annual period. So we're making significant progress in Swansea. We're actually leading the way in many ways, and our homes as power stations is something I'm very proud of. I also want to pay tribute, I know Councillor Stevens has paid tribute to all council staff, but I'm very grateful to the work that's been going on with housing staff and building services in delivering our programmes. So the other thing I wanted to just very quickly mention, I know Councillor Stevens touched upon it, but IT have been working tirelessly, and particularly with the agile working, I think there are certainly lessons to be learnt post-COVID in terms of encouraging staff where possible and where feasible to work more from home. That obviously makes an impact on our carbon footprint, reducing journeys back and forth to our civic buildings, but it also makes that work-life balance more achievable, and it's working really well. So I'd love to see us expand on that post-COVID. So thank you to Councillor Stevens, and I'd be very proud to second the report, Leader.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Lloyd. Councillor Lloyd, you're on mute.
Sorry, I stuck my hand down instead of taking my mic on off mute. Yeah, I'll be very brief, Chair, as I know a few members want to speak on this report. Yeah, as Councillor Stevens outlined, this is a really pleasing report. It does bring in the latter end of the year, which saw the start of the COVID crisis. But obviously, some of the narrative around that takes in some of the issues that we've had to deal with over the last couple of months. And again, place on record my thanks to all council workers, and particularly those in social care and carers, particularly that have been at the front end of dealing with many of the issues during the early part of the pandemic. Councillor Stevens was quite correct. Really pleasing to see the safeguarding performance in respect of members being maintained. That has been an achievement over a number of years, and it really is everyone's business now these days, as it should be. And there's never been a more important time that it is everyone's business as we fight through the pandemic. One of the areas that I do want to bring up from the report is, and it is an area that we do need to really work hard on, and I know work is taking place, is in respect of carers assessments. We're pretty good at assessments for those individuals in terms of the care and support they need, but we really need to continue to highlight the work and the dedication of all carers, but particularly those unpaid carers who have been assisting loved ones, relatives, those in most need, very much going under the radar. And you know, it's not good enough sometimes that we don't give the support to those individuals. As I said on many occasions, Leader, I will always take this opportunity, particularly where we're in the public, to tell governments not to forget carers. All the promises that were made about the people working in the care homes that put their lives at risk during the pandemic, that they should be adequately rewarded at some point in the near future. Proper rates of pay, proper terms and conditions, and a just recognition for all the work and contribution that they've made. That is long overdue. And in that bracket, we must absolutely promote the case of the unpaid carers. So again, don't forget care is my mantle, and the message that I would give out. And I know, Leader, that you will continue to promote that, and I would ask you to continue to promote that in your interactions with leaders at the national level. So I won't say a lot more of that. I think performance during a very difficult time over the last year in social care has been really good. We were performed above target in 20 out of the 32 measures, but the year-on-year comparison shows that there's no reason to be complacent, where that's a 50-50 split on improvement on last year. So I leave it there, Leader. There's a lot of work to do in safeguarding and social care. We're working on better relationships and with people like the Health Board and on a regional basis, and hopefully that will stand us in good stead when we come to next year's annual performance review. Happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. And yes, I absolutely will continue to push for a fairer deal for carers. As you know, Welsh Government have announced a £500 payment for care home staff, and that they are in discussions with the care home industry as to how best to make that payment. And of course, it's disappointing that the UK Government refused to waive the tax and other take on that £500 award to our hardworking carers. It is pleasing, though, to see that they've just announced in the UK Government an extra £500 million for care homes in England, which will hopefully have a direct consequential for Wales and help the Welsh Government to put further investment into the care system here in Wales. But thank you for your comments there. And again, remarkable performance, I think, by our social services department, both in adults and children, given all of the challenges that COVID has brought on top of the very pressures that these departments were dealing with at the beginning of the year. So, Councillor Lloyd, do you want to come back?
Yeah, just to confirm, Chair, that the £500 payment has now been signed off locally. You are correct in terms of the UK Government weren't willing to climb down on the tax and national insurance and payment, but that is being met by the Welsh Government now, so that carers will receive the full £500, and that's been signed off, so that should not be too long before they get that.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. And the next time somebody tells me all governments are the same, I think we can point them to that example. Councillor Rayner.
Thank you. Yes, I think we're all very proud of this report because year on year we have been able to show statistically that we are improving. Some problems there for education because the indicators get changed by Welsh Government, and although we can be very confident we are improving, it is quite statistically hard when those indicators are changed and we have to actually indicate that. But I have to say the big narrative across all of this, all departments, is the increased partnership working that stands out from the report. Everyone is working in partnership with local organisations, national organisations, providing a lot more opportunities for our residents, both us supporting other voluntary and third-party groups, but also those organisations coming to us and wanting to contribute to delivering what Swansea wants to see for its future. So I think it's outstanding. We're very proud of it. And I think it does show we've got a lot more partnership working going on and the huge potential within that partnership type arrangement. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Rayner. Is there anybody else who wanted to come in? I can't see any other hands, but if I've missed any, please, if you want to call out your name.
Yes, Leader, if I could.
Yeah, sorry, Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I just wanted to make a comment on the rate of looked after children figures that are mentioned in the report. I think that this is clearly a challenging area for local authorities across Wales, and I dare say across the whole of the UK, and something that Welsh Government have been really focused on. We have a very good safe lack reduction strategy in place in Swansea, which has been really well supported by Welsh Government, and that has helped us to bring the population down, but also hold and not see these huge increases that other places have been seeing. And the result of that means that actually, if you look, what the report doesn't show, if you look at the rate per 10,000 across Wales compared with other local authorities, we are holding in that sort of middle of the range. We're not at the top, we're holding the middle of the range, which paints a picture. But there's clearly still a lot of work to do, and that's led to a bit of refocusing of the strategy recently. And as the report mentions, we've done really well in getting the numbers of residential placements down, and those are at low numbers now. But there's a bit of refocusing now, looking at some of the legal arrangements we have, and looking at how we can further bring the numbers down in a safe way, doing the best thing for children in the county. And I suppose there's lots of factors that are influencing the numbers, and we're yet to see, I suppose, the impact that COVID-19 is going to have on that population and on the numbers. And that's something that we'll have to prepare for going forward. And there's, lots of things influence it. We have, as a city sanctuary, taken on an accompanied asylum-seeking children, which obviously has an impact on our numbers. But personally, that's something I'm very proud that we've been able to do, and I think that's something that we will continue to do as a city. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor King. Councillor Francis Davis.
Yes, it's not the easiest of reports to read. I suppose over 200 pages of it. It's not the best bedtime reading, I suppose, but a very good report. But the best indicator, because I'm a rather simple sort of soul, is that when I walk through Swansea, the best indicator I can see is the amount of cranes in the city. And when I look at the economy and infrastructure, I would really like to congratulate the work put in by officers, and particularly yourself as well, Leader, in pushing forward the agenda of improving our city centre to create jobs, create vitality within our city. I've never seen so many cranes up over the city, and I think that is the best graph that the people of Swansea can have coming out of COVID. It actually gives confidence for the future to see that. To see the arena taking shape during lockdown has been absolutely tremendous, and almost gives hope to the people in Swansea for the future. It's not in the report, but to me, never mind all the graphs, that is the best graph that the people of Swansea can judge us on.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Francis Davies. Yes, it is. It's delivery in reality, not on a page, isn't it? And I think that's a very good measure, as you say. Again, if I'm missing any hands, if anybody else wishes to come in on the report, if you could let me know.
Yes, myself, I had my hand up, Chair.
Sorry, Councillor Thomas. Apologies, I can only see 8 at a time,
Yeah,
so apologies.
okay, that's fine. Yeah, it's just to come in only briefly on the economy and infrastructure element of it. Yeah, and Councillor Robert Francis Davies just touched on the point I was going to raise. It's obviously, and I wanted to focus particularly on the Kingsway and what that has become. As it is truly a gateway to the rest of the city. It is truly iconic, and I think that despite the trials and tribulations going through the development of the Kingsway, I mean, not least that we lost the contractor, the main contractor that went into administration, but we overcome that. We've overcome the issues and challenges presented through COVID. But I think basically what warms me with it is we delivered what we said we would. There was, as we are all aware, a lot of criticism over our green credentials and our green intentions for the city centre. We said we would deliver a greener, more diverse, biodiverse city centre. And I think that unequivocally that is demonstrated on the Kingsway on its own. We've had nothing but praise about the development. Although it isn't finalised yet, people can see the finished product. The finishing line is there. And I think that it has, for me, it is demonstrating to people that they should trust in us as an administration, and we will deliver upon what we've said. These are not just pipe dreams, they are actual factual, evidential projects that we have developed, and they are there. The two-way switchover is, as we said, delivered. It is well supported. I'm not aware of any criticism over it. And again, it is making the city centre much more accessible, a much nicer attraction, a nicer place to go. And I think as we come out of the lockdown and as COVID fades hopefully into the distance in the coming years, that it will be a much more welcoming introduction to the city centre for pedestrians, families, cyclists, and all other users of our city centre. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Yes, I fully agree with that. And again, thanks to you and your team and all of those who have helped deliver the much better Kingsway that we have. I do notice those that were claiming that the Kingsway was too narrow and the road was not to code and have suddenly gone quiet as the traffic flows freely through the city centre in a much better way. And of course, I do absolutely agree with what you said around the public perception out there, because people were quite rightly sceptical of the incoming Labour administration, given the administration that they'd had for 8 years that had imposed the bendy bus on the city, that had talked about schemes but never delivered them. What we have done, as you quite rightly said, is promised, but promised sensibly, and then delivered on those promises. And as people will see as we come towards 2022, we've not only delivered everything that we said we would, but we've gone further. And we've also had to do that, not just through COVID, but through the Brexit referendum and other big national challenges that are outside of our local control. So I think your officers should be very proud, you should be very proud, and hopefully everybody can be proud of the city and county that we are building as an administration. So thank you for that, Councillor Thomas. In terms of the report, it has been formally moved and seconded. So Mr. Evans, we'll go to the roll call now, please.
Okay, Councillor Rob Stewart.
4.
Councillor Robert Francis Davies.
4.
Councillor David Hopkins.
4.
Councillor Andrea Lewis.
4.
Councillor Clive Lloyd.
4.
Councillor Sam Pritchard.
4.
Councillor Alison Pugh.
4.
Councillor Jen Rayner.
4.
Councillor Andrew Stevens.
4.
Councillor Mark Thomas.
4.
That's unanimous, Chair, with all 10 for.
Thank you very much. And we'll now move then to item 9, which is the annual equality review. Councillor Pugh.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to bring today our report on our annual equality review for 2019-20. This is the last of the 2016 to 2020 strategic equality plan, the last year for it. It's a retrospective report and ask you to be aware that it reflects on the impact of COVID-19 had at the end of the report. You know, early this year we carried out a review along with the findings from the scrutiny inquiry into equalities to inform our new strategic equality plan for 2020 to 2024 going forward. You know, this is a wide-ranging report which demonstrates our whole council approach to equalities, and I'm proud that this report shows our staff work to improve the lives of the residents of Swansea. The report describes how we work in partnership to address our priorities, and you know, just some simple examples out of the report are, you know, poverty and people amongst people and human rights being just two of many within the report, because it's a very broad report, and we're proud of our co-production work, particularly in children's services, and we aim now to build on that as the foundation going forward to improve outcomes for people, especially particularly of the most vulnerable people. You know, so what is important now is that we have learned from our reviews, we've learned over the years, and we have a clear plan going forward. We aim to continue to improve on our work for our staff and our residents of Swansea's lives. So I'd like to put on record my thanks to the staff for this honest report and identifying areas that we are working to improve on. And I ask the Cabinet to approve the report content for publication.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pugh, for moving the report. Does anybody have any questions for Councillor Pugh? Councillor King.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Apologies. I didn't account of personal interest in the report, given that Swansea Pride is mentioned in the report, and I'm a trustee of Swansea Pride. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor King. We'll note that and obviously complete the form at the end of the meeting, if that's okay. Does anybody wish to come in on and comment, or any questions for Councillor Pugh?
Yes, well, I'll comment.
Yeah, Councillor Francis Davis.
Yeah, I'm particularly proud of this report. It's quite easy to sign notices of motion. It's quite easy to put policies. What is important is how we deliver on those policies and how we deliver on an all council basis. Councillor Rayner said earlier about the partnership working, and this report here shows partnership working. And if you refer to the case study, I've been particularly pleased of how the equalities area within the culture department have embraced these policies. We look at case study 1, the LGBT and History Month, the Black History Month, the Swansea Pride, you know, which was a great success, and it was such a shame that this year's had to be postponed until next year, but it was a great event. Thousands turned out, and I'm sure this is going to get bigger and bigger, but it was meaning everybody working together to ensure it's a success. The White Ribbon Day, the digital hub that is going to go into the arts wing of the Grand Theatre, Mental Health Awareness Week is a case study. Our employees' mental health and well-being, another case study there. The World AIDS Day, St Helens Road 50 years celebration, working with probably one of our most diverse communities in the Sandfields area. And the Diversity Pledge, as you know, Leader, came out of our work on the City of Culture. And this is all the efforts of our staff interpreting the policies that we have and the determination to move forward and actually turning our words into actions and delivering. So I'd like to congratulate our staff in actually making these happen. There was the school swap, a better welcome to Swansea on case studies. All the departments ensuring that we deliver. And I think that we are embracing our intention well across the board.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Francis Davis. Did you want to say formally second as part of your intervention?
Happily second.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Pritchard.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I think it's a great report. I just want to pick up really on the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child that's mentioned in the report. I'm always incredibly pleased to see the UNCRC being championed. And I think what this report helps to do is demonstrate that when we adopted the UNCRC as a council in 2014, that was not the end of children's rights. And I think what's really encouraging is that as a council, we are continuing to further children's rights, continue to champion children's rights. And my hope is that it never drops off the agenda and we never forget about it. What you'll see, particularly in the children's rights sections, are words like, we will continue or we will remain. And it's so encouraging there to hear words of continuation. And it's so encouraging that Swansea does not view children's rights as a tick box exercise. We've got the badge, we've got the sticker, we've solved children's rights, we can move on. What is encouraging is we are continuing and striving to continuing. And my hope and what I'm really hoping for and pushing for is the expansion of children's rights, continuing to see how we can change things, how we can do things better, and how we can give children more rights. And I love the line, and I just want to quote it from the report, that children and young people must be provided with a meaningful opportunity to influence decision concerning their lives. I think that's why those of us in children's rights, and I'm sure Elliot would agree, that's why we do what we do, to give children the right and a voice and a say. And it's been great over the past year with such events as the 5th International Children's Rights Day that we held at Swansea. That was a great success. But it's so good to see further plans that we are continuing to push for children's rights. Not that we've just agreed to it and forgotten about it, but we continue to champion. And I think that's important for every issue of equality. There's always improvements to be made. There's always things we can do better. But I think as Swansea Council, we have got a lot to be proud of in the realms of equality, and one of them is continuing. So I just want to end, Chair, just by thanking the staff, particularly in my own service and in children's rights, just to thank the staff. And I'm really confident that the staff that work in child and family services, they really do have children at the centre of what they're trying to do. They really do have a child-centred focus, listening to the voices of children. And a huge thank you to the staff for all they have done and all we will continue to do as we push and go further and further inequalities. I think it's a great report, and I am proud to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Does anybody else wish to come in before I sum up? Okay, I very much support the report and thank Councillor Pugh for bringing it today, and obviously associate myself with the comments that the members have made. What I would say, of course, is that, as Councillor Pugh said, this is backward looking, and I know Councillor Pugh, Councillor Francis Davis and others are involved in the work already for us to take this to the next level, and that would include an ambition for us to become the UK's first human rights city, drawing together all of the excellent work across the sphere of equalities for all of the groups that we seek to protect and promote. So we'll be able to report back on that work later this year, where we hopefully will be able to make Swansea the first human rights city in the UK. With that, I'll go back to Mr. Evans for the roll call.
Okay. Councillor Rob Stewart.
4.
Councillor Robert Francis Davis.
4.
Councillor David Hopkins.
4.
Councillor Andrea Lewis.
4.
Councillor Clive Lloyd.
4.
Councillor Sam Pritchard.
4.
Councillor Alison Pugh.
4.
Councillor Jen Rayner.
4.
Councillor Andrew Stevens.
4.
Councillor Mark Thomas.
4.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Thank you all. We'll move to the next report then, which is Sustainable Landscapes, Sustainable Places 2021. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I'm pleased to move this report. It's a retrospective report. We've already received the money, but obviously we need to ratify it here today. It's for £135,000 in total. What it's to do, one thing COVID have taught us is the value of green open spaces. I know as an authority we prioritise in that going forward. So this is mainly £100,000 on Clyne Valley, to enhance the offering there. And I know Councillor Francis Davies will probably be very pleased. Obviously, it will enhance the viability for holiday makers and going forward there. It's a very much loved park, and I think it'll certainly enhance that. And then we've got the decarbonisation. This is obviously climate change and everything else. This is an investment of £5,000 to look at replacing two-stroke chainsaws with electric versions of chainsaws. And then we've got sustainable drainage at Bishop Wood. So these are all areas of outstanding natural beauty, and it just shows our commitment to the natural environment and biodiversity. So I'm pleased to move this report retrospectively.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. Does anybody wish to come in and add to what Councillor Hopkins has said?
No, just to welcome it, Leader.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Francis Davies. Do you want to second the report then?
Please to second.
Thank you very much. Okay, if there are no further comments, I'm sure we'll all welcome the cash for taking forward those schemes. I'll go back to Mr. Evans for roll call.
Okay. Councillor Rob Stewart.
For.
Councillor Robert Francis Davies.
For.
Councillor David Hopkins.
For.
Councillor Andrea Lewis.
For.
Councillor Sam Pritchard.
For.
Councillor Alison Pugh.
For.
Councillor Jen Rayner.
For.
Councillor Andrew Stevens.
For.
Councillor Mark Thomas.
For.
Mr. Evans, you've missed me.
Oh, Councillor Clive Lloyd, apologies.
All right, let you off. For.
Sorry about that. All 10 for. Sorry.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So the next report then is the Government Circular Economy Capital Fund Wood Use and Recycling Centre. Councillor Thomas.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And very, very pleased to be bringing this report. It's fast-moving times, and these bids come in left, right, and centre at inordinate pace. And sometimes we can't keep up as an organisation with the formal procedure of making applications. So it's a bit retrospective. We put the application in because Welsh Government offered this to authorities earlier in the year, and we get very little time to apply for those bids. So officers and I have agreed the bid. It's totaling £98,850. We don't know. We haven't received approval yet, but obviously I'm hopeful that it will be accepted. Basically, and the funding bid was for things that truly meet the circular economy ambitions of the Welsh Government and us as a council. And this one truly does. If ever there's a box to be ticked, this is clearly one of those. And what it entails basically is us establishing a wood reuse site up at Llansamlet. Currently, as you know, people are taking disused wood and unwanted wood up to the site, furniture, and also we have quite a lot of wood throughput within the parks organisations through tree felling, etc. This would enable us to reuse that disused wood and sell it back into the residents of Swansea and businesses or anybody else who might take part in that scheme. I think the excitement about it is it's initially going to be a relatively small operation employing 2 people, of which will be funded. The cost of labour will be funded through the sales of whatever it is we make out of the surplus wood and disused wood. But I think that is going to expand in time. I think that this will just go from strength to strength. And if you look at our shop sales and that, and people have really bought into that principle of reuse rather than stuff going to landfill. So it really does tick the box of it's truly a circular economy bid. And I welcome the report, and I hope that Cabinet can support us in achieving that and gaining that all support from Welsh Government as well.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Yes, sounds a very, very good initiative. Could I ask if anybody wishes to come in and make a comment, or anybody is able to second the report, please?
Happy to second.
Thank you very much. Okay, yes, Councillor Thomas, excellent report, and hopefully, as you say, we can secure the grant and grow the service from there. So I'll go to Mr. Evans now for roll call, please.
Councillor Rob Stewart.
For.
Councillor Robert Francis Davis.
For.
Councillor David Hopkins.
For.
Councillor Andrea Lewis.
For.
Councillor Clive Lloyd.
For.
Councillor Sam Pritchard.
For.
Councillor Alison Pugh.
For.
Councillor Jen Rayner.
For.
Councillor Andrew Stevens.
For.
Councillor Mark Thomas.
For.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, Mr Evans. That's carried. And on to the next report then, which is the Councillors' Community Budget Play Capital Fund. Councillor Francis Davis.
Yeah, I really welcome this report. As Councillor Sam Pritchard said earlier about United Nations rights of the child, and again, not showing that we just adopt these policies and ignore it. What we found in COVID, that our local parks and open spaces have been probably better used than ever, and shows the importance of those parks and open spaces. Unfortunately, what we found is that some of our play areas have been sadly depleted because of the government cuts to local government and some hard decisions having to be made. Your leader, yourself, brought up to me that it's wrong that our parks, play areas have been diminishing. I'd like to thank you for the effort that you've made in bringing forward this £1 billion budget to enhance play areas right across the city and county of Swansea. Sometimes we are criticised that we put better play areas in certain places for the visitors, whereas play is important for everyone wherever they are within the city and county of Swansea. Now, this way, this community budget will enable each ward to be able to have £30,000 towards what the councillors see as the important part of their wards. After all, they are elected to represent those areas and should know and reflect the needs of those areas better than anyone else. And this £30,000, there will be conditions to it. The conditions will be that you've got to find another 20%. Now, that 20% may come from the community budget that all councillors hold, or it could come from the Friends of Parks, or it could come from a community council where there is a community council, or it could be other ways of raising money through grant aid, through different projects. It'll be just each ward, not each councillor will get this money. And I will be writing out, if this is approved today, and I'm sure it will be, to every councillor to get together with their fellow councillors to come up with adequate schemes that can be delivered. So I think it's 34 wards. So 34 wards actually working together. It's going to be difficult to implement them all quickly. So those who come in first will obviously get priority. We will put them out in tranches to make sure that we will have to advertise them and sell to Wales as part of capital schemes to make sure that we are getting best value for where we spend this money. There are conditions, like it must be on council land, or if it's council land has been adopted as an asset transfer to friends or community councils. So that would still be classed as council land. I think this is a great scheme. It will be able to deliver what we all know are the important areas within Swansea. So I so move, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Francis Davis. Councillor Thomas, I'll go to you next.
Yes, thank you, John. Happy to second this as well. I think it's a report not only would be welcomed and supported, hopefully, by all of us as Cabinet, but through all elected members, I'm sure. It does bring the investment into parks down to very much to a local level. I think a lot of what I would cover, I don't want to repeat what Councillor Francis Davis has already said, because he's covered it primarily, but it is allowing local wards to invest in child facilities and child play where they feel it's most important to them. And I think there's a lot in that, in they know best where the needs of their local communities are. from a parks perspective, it is nice. Again, I know Robert Francis Davies touched on this, is we've endured years and years of austerity measures, which has meant that, you know, our budgets have been ever decreasing because of the pressures on local government, and reductions have had to be made. So it's very welcome within parks to have this sort of investment. And I think that is reflected in the need, the clear need that's been demonstrated through COVID of how much the public and children value the importance of our parks, and they've gone out in droves to enjoy them. And I'm just so pleased that we've had such wonderful facilities on our doorstep for most people. Most people live within quite easy distance of a green space or a park. And I think that this is really, really showing our determination to put money where the residents of Swansea most need it and would get most benefit from. So I'm very happy to second this, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Not much to add on top of Councillor Thomas and Councillor Francis Davies. I completely echo all their comments. Obviously, I welcome the additional £1 million investment into our play and sport facilities across the county. The Play Fund actually complements the £1 million already agreed by this Cabinet back in March, and the £720,000 already available to ward members to spend on community priorities. That's over £2.7 million worth of investment by this administration into community-led schemes outside the city centre. So thanks to this fund, it'll be possible to invest in the kind of priorities local people want to see, because they'll make a difference in their local area, and I'm happy to support the report. Thank
you very much, Councillor Stevens. Councillor Pritchard.
Yeah, very quickly, Chair. I just wanted to echo what Councillor Robert Francis Davies spoke about. Article 31, I think, of the UNCRC says that children have a right to play. And so I'm very proud to see this report that promises and puts £1 million back into directly helping children to play. And we all know the benefits of play, particularly outdoor play, on emotional well-being, on mental well-being, on physical health. This is a fantastic initiative, and I'm very glad to be part of an administration and a council that values families and the right of play.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. Are there any other contributions? Anybody else got their hands up or would like to come in and make a comment? If not, again, yes, I mean, as Councillor Stevens pointed out, this is just additional to the monies already made available by this Cabinet for investment in local communities. And, you know, as part of the budget we passed in March this year, that budget contained nearly £7 million of investments into communities, whether it be free Wi-Fi, whether it be enhancements to road repairs, pavements, better street lighting, better cleansing, all of those obviously which proved a little bit challenging through the COVID lockdown, but are still things that this administration will deliver this year, albeit a little bit later than we had originally planned. But that represented, even in March, the biggest ever investment into our local communities, and very pleased that Cabinet have brought this report today with that investment direct into play, which is so important for people's health, well-being, and important for children's health and well-being. As has been said, COVID has helped lots of people rediscover our parks and open spaces, and we need to make sure that we invest in them to make them a really brilliant place for people to spend time. So thank you all for that. I'll move back now then to Mr. Evans for roll call, please.
Councillor Rob Stewart.
4.
Councillor Robert Francis Davies.
4.
Councillor David Hopkins.
4.
Councillor Andrea Lewis.
4.
Councillor Clive Lloyd.
4.
Councillor Sam Pritchard.
4.
Councillor Alison Pugh.
4.
Councillor Jen Rayner.
4.
Councillor Andrew Stevens.
4.
Councillor Mark Thomas.
4.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. On then to our next report, which is an FPR7 financial report on solar photovoltaic farm development opportunity. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. I can't undervalue the amount of effort and time that's been involved getting this proposal to this point. My thanks to Jeff Bacon and Alex in Property Services, with the support of Welsh Government Energy Services, to carry out various model financial scenarios to develop a 3 megawatt ground-mounted solar farm at Tir John. 1.4 outlines our authority's Energy and Carbon Management Plan 2020 to 2030 and its key principles. Reducing our carbon footprint by 3% per annum, increasing the use of renewable energy, exploring potential initiatives for generating income from energy generation. And this project ticks all of those boxes. The proposal is outlined in point 2, but in 2.4, Cabinet members will see the total payback period is in the region of 20 years. But we must note that the life expectancy of this project is approximately 25 to 30 years. So after the payback period in 20 years, we will then be bringing in an income. And I'll expand more on the financial aspect when we go in camera, Leader. Just to also highlight that Tir John is approximately 107 acres and the capped area currently is circa 17 acres. So there will be a future opportunity to consider once the whole site is capped. There is the potential for us to consider in the future to expand this site to a 10 megawatt farm. But obviously that is for future consideration, Leader. Apologies, I had a phone call in the middle of my spiel there. I do apologise. The project programme and timeline is highlighted in item 3. But if I could just highlight that Welsh Government Energy Services will continue to provide that specialist support throughout the delivery of this project. And just very quickly, 6.3, there will be community involvement. This will be integral to the path of this development, and there will be a community communication campaign, and they will be fully consulted throughout phase 2 of this project. There will also be opportunities for community benefits to be explored wherever practical and agreed with local community organisations. We as an administration have committed to tackling climate change. And one of the things that we committed to in that notice of motion and that declaration was to reduce our carbon footprint and to the ambition to be carbon neutral by 2030. And this project will make significant gains in order to help us do that. And with that, Chair, I move the recommendations on page 228.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lewis. Councillor Lloyd.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree with Councillor Lewis's proposal of the motion. And whilst it's great and it's excellent that it's meeting our aspirations, both in terms of climate emergency and being a green council, one of the leading green councils in Wales, it's interesting, and it's not the location and site should certainly not be lost, because it is the site of what has been a landfill operation for many years on the east side of Swansea. Dates back to the industrialisation of Swansea on the east side in terms of the docks, Carbon Black, Tir John Power Station, and it's nice to see that we're moving towards closing that intrusive operation, which the residents of Portennant and the east side have had to put up with for many years. And it's a change, a welcome change into a green energy provision operation that doesn't have the very negative impacts that the previous industries that I've talked about have had on the community. So from that perspective, it has to be welcome, and we do look forward to possibly seeing the expansion as Tir John closes over the next couple of years, as we reduce the amount of landfill that we use year on year. So I do welcome the initiative. It's excellent that paragraph 6.3, as Councillor Lewis has outlined, makes provision for community engagement. I think that's really important, that people are aware that what's being proposed and the impacts that it can have on the community. But also I'm really pleased that this council is looking for some way to put something back into the community through community benefit, which is something that all the industries that I outlined earlier, as I said, failed to do. It's been a lot of taking from the east side and very little giving back. So I think it's a welcome proposal, a welcome initiative, but the proviso is that there's community engagement, and we look as much as we can to put something back onto the east side.
Thank you, Councillor Lloyd. Can I take that as a formally seconding as well?
Yeah, second that.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to comment on this report? If not, just before we go to roll call, I just like to echo the comments and the support for this. I think, as Councillor Lloyd has said, you know, one of our strategies as a council has been that we are a one council, that we try and, you know, I think Boris's term levelling up that he's brought in recent days was something that we have had as a policy in Swansea for many, many years, which is trying to make sure all communities are equal and that the investment and benefits of living in Swansea are equally shared, both those financial ones, social ones, and health ones, because we know that the health inequality in Swansea that we inherited was dramatically divided. So I too, Councillor Lloyd, welcome the fact that after a long, long wait, hopefully the residents of East Side and St Thomas will see a benefit in their communities from this investment, which will be, I'm sure, to the enrichment of St Thomas and the surrounding area. So look forward to seeing that come as part of this scheme. So very happy to support as well. Okay, we'll go to Mr Evans and roll call, please.
Councillor Rob Stewart.
4.
Councillor Robert Francis Davis.
4.
Councillor David Hopkins.
4.
Councillor Andrea Lewis.
4.
Councillor Clive Lloyd.
4.
Councillor Sam Pritchard.
4.
Councillor Alison Pugh.
4.
Councillor Jen Rayner.
4.
Councillor Andrew Stevens.
4.
Councillor Mark Thomas.
4.
That's unanimous, Chair.
Thank you, Mr Evans. Thank you all. We'll go then to the next report, which is the Chief Legal Officer's report on the exclusion of the public. The rationale for exclusion is laid out there. Again, does anybody disagree with the advice from the Chief Legal Officer?
No,
happy to agree that.
move the recommendation.
Okay, thank you. I think that's unanimous. Therefore, Mr Evans, could we stop the recording?
Yeah, one moment.